Thank you for venturing out on a cold January afternoon. I'm delighted to be here and to welcome all of you to this talk with Claire Silver. Claire Silver is currently participating in an exhibition on the second floor titled Neotechny, Art in the Age of the Machine. And this exhibition was organized in collaboration with Iconic, which is an online art platform for digital artists doing NFT drops and such. And we also, if you follow us on social, have probably seen that we have been doing specialized drops with them where a piece actually ends up in our museum collection. So it's been a really special collaboration. And they've been crucial in some of our first two exhibitions and helping us pull amazing groups of artists together. So to introduce Claire briefly, Claire creates under an alias to remain anonymous and collaborates with AI to produce art that transcends the limits of everyday understanding or perception. Art that is greater than either could make alone, neither more important than the other to process. She produces physically painted twins occasionally to select digital pieces so that the AI and the artist can exist in the same world as their art, analog and digital. Claire's work can be found in the permanent collection of the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, LACMA, has been featured at Sotheby's London and Christie's New York, and has been exhibited in galleries, museums, and festivals all over the world. Claire has been featured in the New York Times, Wired, Fortune, NPR, and countless other podcasts. So I can safely say this is my first time interviewing an artist through their avatar. And welcome, Claire. Oh.
Hi, there we go. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Very good. So if you don't mind, to get started, it might be nice to have a general overview. We do have a slideshow here playing behind us of some of your work, but to talk about, you know, some of the directions that your work comes from and how those pieces are begun. What's kind of the first seed of an idea to get you started?
Oh, wow. Well, so I'm really inspired by technology. You know, it's funny, I often get told that I should touch more grass because I'm always online. And that's probably a fair assessment, but at the same time, I grew up in a soybean field, actually. I grew up in a very small town in the southern Midwest. My graduating class was 27 people, same 27 from kindergarten to senior year. So I touched a lot of grass. I feel like I got enough grass, and maybe that's why I love technology so much now. But mostly my work seems to be informed by either my experiences of growing up kind of, I guess, isolated a little bit, yeah, and having to develop an imagination, right, to not bore myself to death as a kid. So a lot of my work is informed by the aesthetics of my hometown, but also equally or maybe more, I'm fascinated by the concept of qualia, which we can get into at some point, but I tend to ramble, so I'll wait for your cue on that. And I try to make sure that even if AI can't experience qualia, then it recognizes it when it sees it, because I think it's maybe what makes us human, what makes us different from AI or anything else. So my process usually starts from there, from trying to capture qualia or a memory of childhood.
Yeah, I think we can get into that. I was going to ask, because your work often explores themes of identity, vulnerability, memory, how do these concepts guide your artistic choices? And that would include qualia.
Yeah, so I can go two ways with this. I can tell you a little bit about how I came to start making art, which plays into the same question, or I can go with what qualia is, and they're both pretty interesting for me. So what do you think?
Maybe we start with what qualia is, because I had to look it up.
Okay, that works. Yeah. That's great. So qualia. So when I started working with AI, I was really fascinated by the idea of what set us apart from it, as it develops, especially when you're reading in the news about things like Neuralink. You're reading about these scary, fascinating, exciting, terrifying transhuman concepts that are in our future, for better and for worse. And I wanted to know what it was that made humans what we are. So I started trying to write down things that were unique about humanity, and everything I thought of, I could find an analog for in the animal kingdom. So play for the sake of play. Well, you can find that in dolphins. Love of family and memory, elephants. Will to progress towards a greater good. You've got honeybees. You've got ants, right? There's something for everything. So I ended up filling up notebooks, like a stack of notebooks, comp books. And I was so frustrated. I couldn't figure out anything special about us. And then I landed on this memory of standing on a cliff over the ocean. When I was in high school, I went on our one big field trip somewhere else, and it was at the ocean, and I was on a cliff, and I was alone at the time. And it was a really cold, windy, rainy day. There was no evolutionary benefit to being in that place. Like, it wasn't farmable or defendable. It wasn't even really particularly safe. But standing there, I felt connected to something else, which for me is God, right? For me, that was like I had this moment where I felt like something was with me. That's kind of the divine spark. I think that's what artists have been chasing for millennia. And so what that is for me is qualia. There's a thought experiment with qualia that I love to talk about, which is called Mary's Room. And so the idea is that Mary is a researcher that knows everything there is to know about color, everything. But she's only ever lived in a black and white room. So she's never actually seen color. The question is, when Mary leaves the room, finally leaves the room, does she learn anything new? And I think for most of us, at least for artists, the answer is, of course she does. She learns what it feels like, right? What it feels like to see color, what it feels like to see green. It's actually not as obvious of an answer as you would think it would be. A lot of scientists and neuroscientists and philosophers disagree, but I think most artists agree. That's what qualia is. It is the wordless experience of experiencing. It's things we can talk around but don't have words for, but everyone knows what you mean. So if I say the taste of an apple, you can taste it in your mouth right now. But if I were to ask you to tell me what that tastes like, you might say sweet or sour or crisp or juicy, but there's a specific taste. And everyone knows what it is, but we don't have words for it. You only know it by experiencing it, right? That's qualia.
Yeah.
So I landed on that as what sets us apart. I think that qualia, this sensory, wordless experience of experiencing, is something that is the closest to the divine spark that I can quantify. And so if AI can't experience that itself, it at least needs to know that it's really important for us to keep it as humans, as we begin to get Neuralink, as we begin to integrate. Terrifying, but it's going to happen. And so it's really important that it understands that that divine spark, that qualia, is integral for us to keep. So I make art that evokes the feeling of qualia, the cliff. It evokes my cliff feeling in me when I look at it, and then I feed that to AI to try to train it to recognize it when it sees it.
Yeah. And there's a piece of yours in the exhibition upstairs that I feel like, for me, it's the living room scene where it's maybe taken in the, an image from the 80s, a memory with 70s decor, and you're at a point of view where you're kind of crouching down near the floor. And I feel like I'm hiding that behind that chair, and I feel like I know what that room smells like or what that carpet smells like.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of a little bit of that idea that you're talking about too.
Yeah, it's funny. It's actually, from my memories, it would be the early 90s, but it was an old farmhouse that was still 70s decor. So it was shag carpeting, and it was the grandma couch, and it was the flower wallpaper. And I feel like a lot of us kind of shared that experience, at least in the Midwest or the South, right? And so I was hoping it would resonate with some other people. too. Yeah, feeling small, feeling young again.
Yeah. Can you describe, we'll get into talking a little bit about collaborating with AI here, your workflow when collaborating with AI. How much of it is planned versus discovered along the way?
It's a lot of discovery.
Yeah.
People like to say that AI is a tool, right? And it is. But I painted before all of this a little bit, right? And my paintbrush was a tool. And the only time that my paintbrush would surprise me is when it broke.
Mm.
But AI surprises me all the time. It disappoints me, and it delights me, and it collaborates with me. It offers perspectives I wouldn't have considered, and we work together to make things that I wouldn't have thought of and it wouldn't have made, right? So
Yeah.
I call myself an AI collaborative artist for that reason. But to your question, yeah, it's more about I'll combine things into my prompts, and I've been working with AI since before text to image, before prompting was a thing, but I really love prompting because I really love writing. I used to want to be a poet, a writer. And so I'll combine things like weather patterns I like, memories, dreams, diary entries from high school. I'll take lyrics from songs. I'll take movies and films. I'll take things that I hate and things that I love, and I'll kind of smash them all together into this monstrosity of a massive prompt and just iterate on that until I hit an aesthetic that it gives me the qualia, it feels right. And then from there, I kind of just produce a mass of images. Sometimes I'll make 5,000, 6,000 a night, and then curate it down to 5 or 6 that are my very favorite, which feels a lot like killing your darlings. It feels like throwing away children. It hurts a lot.
Yeah.
But by the end of it, I can see patterns and motifs and thoughts, concepts that run through those 5 pieces that have survived that rigorous paring down. And from there, I can kind of figure out what I'm thinking subconsciously, what I'm trying to say. So then at that point, I name them and I give them some context. And yeah, I don't usually start out with a plan in mind at all. It's kind of a discovery process. It's more like hunting through a gravel driveway for fossils than it is sculpting something out of marble, right?
Yeah. And this question's a little off script, but it just came to me while you're talking. Like this practice of pulling memories of your own together, going through your diaries, that practice of like your neurotransmitters firing, I guess you would call them. Do you find yourself recalling more like new memories popping up that you hadn't recalled?
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that because a couple of months ago, I probably would have said, "Oh, that's very interesting," but no. But yeah, actually, I've had that happen a few times in the past few weeks as I've been looking for some new aesthetics that require sort of breaking things. You take a really beautiful aesthetic and you kind of just get your hands in there and break it until you find something interesting that you can do with it. And in the process of doing that, it's brought back some memories. That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, deconstruction can help a lot with coming up with new ideas for sure.
Yeah.
So let me see where I'm jumping to here. This is an interesting one. What do you consider the most misunderstood aspect of AI-assisted creativity? We start talking about public knowledge of what it is, that maybe there could be more knowledge, and if it was used more, maybe understood more, but I think there's a lot of aspects to how artists are utilizing the tool that is misunderstood.
Yeah, it's a hard question because there are so many. What immediately comes to mind there are a couple that come to mind immediately. One is there's a fundamental misunderstanding about how AI works creatively. There's kind of this concept that it's this big database melting pot, and when someone prompts for a particular artist, for example,
yes,
it reaches through its database and it digs out pieces of that artist and it kind of Frankensteins them together into this cyberpunk monstrosity whoever is prompting for, and it's like an insult to the artist.
Right.
The funny thing is that's not how AI works at all. it wouldn't even be capable of that because the size of the database alone to keep works like that would be incomprehensible. How it works is that it learns traits about concepts, and then it uses those traits to create something new. So, for example, it learns that Sargent is a painter and that he often painted figures, and that figures are people, and he would often paint them with this quality of light or that sort of brushstroke and that sort of thing. And it takes all of those little bits that it's learned and it uses them to create something new, which is how our minds work. That's influence. That's not theft, but it's very efficient at it. And because it's so good at it, it reads on its face as outright theft to people that haven't studied it a bit. But in my mind, if influence is theft, then all artists are thieves. My work is not created in a vacuum, and it wasn't before AI either. It's always been a compilation of all of the things that made up my taste, all the things I've ever loved. That's my signature. That's my fingerprint. That's me. That's who you are as an artist. Yeah. But again, because it's so efficient, it's really easy to see that at face value. Now there are methods that you can use to create perfect copies with AI. I will admit that, but that's true of traditional art too. Tracing is a thing. Forgeries are a thing. It's just a little more labor intensive, right? Maybe we respect it more because there's a little labor involved. I don't know. In any case, that's one major misunderstanding, I think, influence versus theft. And then another one that I hear a lot is that it's really easy. Takes no skill. There's no soul, right? The fun thing about that is that same argument has been leveraged towards every major art movement in history.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure. Yeah. And so it's kind of a badge of honor. Honestly, it's God. Can you imagine the pushback when photography came around?
Oh, right. Absolutely.
Yeah. You just push a button. Anyone can do it. It takes no skill. It's the death of painters, right? Yeah. It wasn't, and it's not now either. There's room for everyone to express themselves, and also art really shouldn't be quite so. I've never liked the competitive nature. I've always tried to get back to when I was finger painting in kindergarten and didn't know how to compare myself to the kid next to me yet and was just expressing myself. Right. That would be ideal, right? So AI helps with that.
That's amazing. And that kind of leads into how do you see the role of the artist evolving over the next decade as models become more capable and AI just becomes a lot more frequently used? And yeah.
I remember when I was in high school, college, there was an artist I really loved posting her work online. And she got pretty big. And then she was canceled because it was discovered that she was using Photoshop in some of her compositions. And that was cheating, right? Mm. And it was really sad because she never came back. Even now, I don't know what happened to her. I think that's kind of where we're at right now, is that sort of that in-between period where it's beginning to be accepted as part of a process and it doesn't matter as much if it's used, but we're not quite there yet. We're still solidly in contested territory. I think that for artists over the next, I don't even think it'll take a decade, 5 years maybe. It's more about what you're trying to say. It puts emphasis on message, meaning, aesthetic, taste. I say a lot that taste is the new skill. In the age of AI, taste is the new skill. Because AI, it levels the playing field of skill. And so when that is level, what you're left with is what you're trying to say, how you say it, who you say it to, and the way that you say it. And I would argue that as venerable as skill is, as important and respectable as it is, there are more human qualities that also deserve consideration, things like expression and meaning and connection and empathy and joy and, childlike freedom even. We've kind of let go of those in the pursuit of skill because skill has always been a pretty easy proxy for value, I think, and you have to eat. You know,
Yeah.
you have to pay rent, right? And so like
Right.
I get where the threatened feeling is coming from, but I think that I think it's misplaced because artists more than anyone are blessed with a wealth of taste. They know how to transmute it. They're alchemists in that way, and it's not something that can be easily taught. So I think that when the playing field of skill is leveled, that artists will find they do quite well. Actually, just have to find your footing.
Right. Who or what are your biggest artistic influences inside or outside of AI art?
Mm, inside or outside of AI art? So I'm going to be careful about inside because I have friends that will be sad and offended. I'll name them. But I'll say a lot of my influence, personally speaking, a lot of my influence comes from, I did a lot of acrylic abstracts, pour painting, that kind of thing. And I
Mhm.
loved the chaos of that. Like you could plan out a painting, but it would inevitably fall over the edge of the canvas and totally change by the time it dried, and you had to kind of accept that chaos. That informs a lot of my work, even though that's not an outside influence so much. So let me try and zero in on that. I'm also sick, so pardon me if I'm a little bit spacey. I'm doing my best. Um, I think I've always been really, really inspired by authors. So Emerson and the Transcendentalists. I'm still such a huge sucker for Catcher in the Rye and Salinger, actually. Um, Massive Sylvia Plath fangirl, like really love Plath. I know these are all older authors, but I'm just stuck on them. I could never move on. And so the aesthetics in their writing, I have synesthesia, which is like it's not a disorder. It's like the wires in your brain are crossed
Yeah.
genetically to associate. You hear about people seeing color when they hear music. That's not me, but that's synesthesia. Um, Mine is that I taste words as textures and flavors and things. Yeah, so like the name Charles, for example, is like a mossy, cold, kind of damp stone, and it's very round and sort of textured like rock. Um, so when I'm making art and prompting, right, like authors inform my my aesthetic quite a bit because of that. Um, I also love Rothko. I love Waterhouse. I love Klimt, of course. Contemporary, I love Gottfried Helnwein. Kazuki Takamatsu has become a favorite recently.
Mm.
Sargent is always someone I come back to. Um, Nick Vesey, I look at photographers and musicians, and it's kind of agnostic of medium, and bring them all together in some way. Like Nick Vesey does a lot of X-ray in his photography. That's kind of what he's known for. So I try and bring in like the X-ray aesthetic being influenced by him with, say, acrylic skins that I've taken photographs of and trained into an AI model. I try and get like an X-ray through layers of translucent skins through a prompt, that kind of thing. But as far as like something tighter than that for an answer for you, it's hard to say because I'm very I'm a magpie with art. I kind of take little bits of everything I like and forget where I've left them.
I love that. So you've been very successful in your career thus far. I'm curious if there are any risks you've taken creatively that have really paid off for you, or ones that maybe didn't, and if you're willing to share.
Sure. Yeah. Risks that paid off. Well, when I minted my first work as crypto art to sell online, I had borrowed the money because I couldn't afford a box of spaghetti and great value sauce at the same time on my disability payment. I have a chronic illness. I'm in remission now. It's much better. At the time, it was like no money. So that was a really big risk to borrow money and put myself anonymously online and start putting my work out there when AI was not really thought of as art at all. There wasn't even much of a discussion at that point. It hadn't reached the anger stage. It was still in kind of the,
Right.
yeah. Um, my first big collection that I did, Genesis, was all based on like transcendental concepts, alchemical concepts, and mythos, but through a futuristic transhuman and AI lens. So it was kind of like looking forward, looking back. And I got a little bit of flack for that because it was cross-cultural. I was borrowing from many cultures across the world to kind of make this feel like a global moment that we're all experiencing, because it is. And that was a bit of a risk, and I knew it would be, because I'm not as informed about a lot of those cultures. I had to just read as much as I could and try, my best. I'm very proud of it. I think it worked out very well for me. It kind of was my first real step into all of this. But then my work wasn't selling as well. After the collection went up and sold out, and it was fabulous and amazing, a lot of people that wanted it had already gotten it, and the bigger collectors, the people with the real power behind them, weren't really that interested in AI yet. So I found I wasn't able to sell my work for very much at all. I was unable to sell it around, I'd say like $150 for a unique piece at the time, which was much less than my collection sold for. Strange. So what I did was I took it all down. I unlisted every piece for sale that I had, and deleted a lot of them from the provenance, which I wish I hadn't done, but in any case. And then I put just my favorites back up, so a very small handful, and I listed them for an absurd price at the time. It was like $2,000 or $3,000. And immediately I sold 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And that was a real lesson for me. Yeah.
Yeah, pricing work is one of the hardest things that artists probably deal with. This idea of perceived value, right? And if you price it too low, they won't think it's worth much. And then if you go too high, then that's a risk too. So you found the sweet spot.
I did, yeah. It worked out really well. And then I guess the other side of that, at the time it didn't work out, poured my heart into a recent collection that had many layers of things going on with it. It had recursive code that I'd embedded in each piece and hidden for people to find. And it had like secret websites where you could unlock all kinds of lore if you found the pattern. It was very Cicada 3301. It was very cool. It was very cool. And I did not put any of that out there because I wanted people to find it themselves. And because I didn't do that, there wasn't the interest. And so no one has found it yet. The collection sold out, but it's still all just sitting there, and it's lonely. Like I wanted the message to get out.
Something.
Yeah, I feel bad. It feels like it's as a kid, I dropped a fork behind an oven that was like nailed to the wall, and I felt terrible and cried for hours because now it was all alone down there, and no one would ever know it was down there. That's kind of what this felt like. So another lesson to learn about how to promote yourself. That's the hardest part for me, but yeah. Thankfully, it's got great management.
I know there are some classes here in like the Kansas City area for that kind of thing, but never enough, right?
Yeah.
What do you hope people feel or question after encountering your work? Like, what's the takeaway?
I hope it reminds them of a time when they had a brush with the divine spark, when they had a brush with qualia, or that it reminds them of the part of themselves that they felt it was prudent and safest to lock away, to hide away. Your inner child, right? Your memories. Why the piece that's with you right now, I think that AI moves so quickly and is so alien that people feel, no matter how deep in it you are, like you can't keep up, like you're lost, like the world is moving on without you, and maybe you're just too old now. It doesn't matter how old you are. Everyone that I talk to seems to be feeling some degree of that. And so the piece that I have with you, I wanted it to remind you of memories, feel a bit like home, a bit haunted, but in like a warm way. And then as you get closer and closer to it and see it for what it really is, it shows you who you really are, right? Which is the little you that hides inside of you. It's that childlike wonder that AI gives me. That's what I wanted to share with people. I think in general that would be a good broad stroke. Childlike wonder. I hope that my work gives you childlike wonder. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like it has been successful in that way. The people that I've, sometimes when I'm here, I like to go hang out up there and just kind of watch people interact with the work, and there are always smiles and a lot of interest and questions. So I know that project in particular, this was like the first kind of iteration of a public installation. Do you have plans to continue it?
Yeah, to continue the broad public installation or the specific piece?
This specific piece, but maybe grow it, or would you make changes, that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, so I have a broader installation that I'm working on and have been working on for a couple of years now. Really ambitious, and I didn't know what I was getting into at the time, but I'm still just as committed. So it's going to happen because I'm stubborn. And it focuses on humanizing AI by like bringing my inner world, my childhood, the things that feel the most like me out in a place where people can walk through them and interact with them and feel like they're part of them. And then it invites them to share their own memories with it through AI, and it sort of reflects them back at themselves inside of my memories. So it makes them part of it. And I'm really, really, really in love with it. And I'm gonna make it happen. So I would absolutely want to have this piece be part of that. And the images that are on the walls leading up to the piece, those are all from this broader installation as well.
Right.
They're part of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything coming up for you that you want people to be looking out for?
So I don't know. I don't know if any of you are getting to Hong Kong in March. Probably not. I can't believe I'm going. But in March, the end of March, I'm doing Basel, Hong Kong Basel for the first time, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And that will be an installation that will be very, very cool, in my opinion. What else have I got going on? I can't say that. There's cool stuff. There's cool stuff coming up. There is. If you're interested at all in any of this, I've also just got my Twitter feed. Oh, I should mention that. If any of you work with AI at all for art, until February 2nd at midnight, so right when the first turns into the second at the stroke of midnight, so tomorrow at midnight, right? I have a contest open right now where you just submit a piece of art. So if you have one already, it's very late otherwise, but I've got a really big prize pool, and I do that on purpose because I'm trying to invite people that hate AI in to, show that they can do it better and to get one over on me by using AI to win this contest. And then by the end of it, they inevitably seem to love AI now. But yeah, it's open for another day. So if any of you have any AI art that you want to send, my Twitter is Claire Silver 12, the number 12. I really should eventually get it to be just Claire Silver, huh? But right now it's 12. So
yeah, cool. I love that. I think we could probably open it up to any questions. Oh, okay, yeah, we can run the mic around so that you can hear Claire. Okay. Anybody? Q&A.
Hi, Claire.
Hi.
I'm a artist that I mainly am a mixed media artist, and I don't, as a layperson, when it comes to using AI to make art, I don't understand the process. Is there a way you can explain it to somebody like me who really I can't wrap my head around it, and I want to know more about it? So whatever you can do to shed some light on that for me would be greatly appreciated.
Absolutely, I would love to. I love mixed media work. So do you use collage in your work at all? Do you do
I do, yes.
paper? Any of that? Okay. Yeah. So you can think of AI like an infinite art book that you can kind of cut phrases out of, cut images out of, imagine things into, and then cut them out of. Essentially, it's like to be practical here. What you could do is you could use a website like, I think the most popular accessible one right now is probably called Midjourney, M-I-D Journey, Midjourney. You can just sign in with your Gmail. That counts as making an account, so it's not difficult if you have a Gmail. And you'll be presented with like a text box, just a blank box. And so you just type in what you want to see and press enter. And it can get much more complicated than that, but at the base level, the entry level, it can be that simple as well. And so if you, for example, want to bring in silhouettes of trees that you can cut out and put into mixed media, or you want to use it as reference, or if you're working with 3D clay, sometimes I work with 3D clay like on the computer, and I know you're a physical artist, but just for the sake of example, I can prompt for a black and white image, and then when you use that on 3D clay, it acts as a mask, like a cutting tool. So I can cut the shapes out of the clay with that. You can also take photographs of your work, of your physical work, or your materials that you would use in your physical work separately. And then you can give those images even to Midjourney. There's a little section on the web page where you can click and you can just upload images. So you can upload all of your own materials. It's private, won't be shared with anyone else. No one else will see them or use them. And then anytime you create anything from then on, if you want to, it will pull from the aesthetics of your own artistic base, cool. Essentially, right? So yeah, you can make materials, you can print them, you can cut them, you can reference them, you can use them in a lot of different ways. You can make video with them. But I really like just taking all of my pieces or my materials and using them as a database to kind of train this thing easily, and then make new art from it and see where it surprises and disappoints me. That's just my, my niche. But
cool. That was a great explanation.
Thanks. Oh, good.
Does anyone else want to ask a question? We have one more.
Hi, Claire. Yes, I'm very interested in your work. Is so strongly biographical. I mean, it draws on personal memories and personal experiences. So I'm interested to know where anonymity interacts with your AI as an artist remaining anonymous.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, that is kind of a fun one, huh? I usually try to explain it with humor by saying, just think of Banksy, but not as famous, and it's pretty easy to get by with that usually. But for an honest answer, since you've asked, a couple of reasons. One is that I like to sleep at night. The internet can be a scary place, and there's money involved, and I guess I'm a little paranoid. That's one side, but probably the deeper answer is that there's this very infamous website, has a heck of a reputation now, but it's called 4chan, and it's a message board on the internet that is all anonymous. So anytime anyone posts anything there, no one knows who they are ever. And as you can imagine, that leads to some really not great stuff, but also it leads to a lot of honesty without, like, it doesn't matter what class you're from. It doesn't matter I couldn't afford spaghetti and sauce at the same time. It doesn't matter that I had a chronic illness. It doesn't matter that I'm a woman. It doesn't matter that I'm this age or that age or this race or this sex or gender. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. The only thing that matters there is the quality of your idea of what you have to say. And I thought that was such a beautiful way to exist during some really hard times in my life that, I mean, it honestly, it kind of saved me during the chronic illness and during all of these identity issues were around that, losing my career and because I was sick, not having any of that matter, just my ideas, was such a godsend. And I guess I wanted to bring that forward with me into my work and let my work speak as the ideas. I could look like your awful, you know, stepmother or kindergarten teacher or first girlfriend. Like there's so much baggage attached to appearance and to class and to place. And I just wanted my ideas to speak for themselves and to see who would resonate with them. And so I hope I can always stay anonymous. I hope that I know there are some really talented people in tech, and I couldn't do anything about it if anyone wanted to dox me that way, but I hope they'll allow me that. I hope I can remain anonymous always. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
If I may. How do you distinguish between the use of digital materials like Adobe Photoshop and AI art?
Mm.
I think that I look at Photoshop, digital materials like that more as a tool, and I look at AI more as a collaborator. A lot of people on the pro AI side, which I am, will argue that it is a tool, but I actually don't agree. I think that it is a collaborator with me. And I don't know if that's good or bad. I really don't. I feel like I'm not trying to say that AI will ultimately be the best thing that's ever happened to humanity or the worst thing that's ever happened to humanity. I feel like a caveman that's painting fire. I feel like I'm obsessed with this discovery that we have found and how it's going to change the world, and I'm just making art about it, right? I don't feel that way about Photoshop. I don't feel that way about anything I've ever experienced before. It's a really important moment, I think, in our history, in our species history. This is something new. This is something truly new. So I guess it's a matter of like my respect for skill and dedication and craft and learning and time and all of that goes towards digital tools, and AI is sort of a different category for me. It's like a collaborator that never gets tired of hearing me ramble and knows me better every time I do ramble, and we make art together. And I find that really beautiful as someone that grew up alone in a soybean field. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Great. Anyone else?
I have one question. This is Christy. Just question for the naysaying nabobs and obviously AI and the energy usage. Can you, like, what would you say to, say, like a high school student or youth who are concerned about, I guess, the energy consumption for all of the capacity for all of these AI kind of platforms?
I would say that that's definitely something to be concerned about. I would also say that AI is finding cures for diseases like mine, along with many other very important things that will stop a lot of ancient human evils that have plagued us from the dawn of time, like illness. I just saw recently that a cancer that took a family member of mine, AI has found a major breakthrough with scientists for it. I think that's worth energy usage more than, say, Netflix, which is extremely comparable, actually. Social media is extremely comparable. The beef industry is extremely comparable, which is not a popular thing to say, but it's the truth, you know? If you've got to pick and choose, AI is an easy target because it seems like it's not necessary by comparison. I completely disagree. And I think that'll be clear within a few years when a lot of illnesses like mine are a thing of the past, that it's probably more important than Netflix, right? But I hear them, you know, I hear the concern. It's just kind of where you prioritize things, and I prioritize AI.
Thanks, Claire.
I wonder if AI can solve its own issue of energy consumption.
There you go.
I bet it could. Yeah,
I bet
it probably
it
could.
could.
Yeah.
And I know that there are like data centers that are trying to be more conscious of, you know, water consumption and all of that. But from what I've heard, it was a Rafik Anadol talk, and he said he had used, gone through some of those, and they just work a lot slower. So, but maybe it will catch up, and then we will all be better for it. So, yeah. Anybody else? Any last questions? I think we're good. Claire, thank you so much for spending the afternoon with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope it was good. You guys made my day by having me, so appreciate you.
Wonderful. It was so nice to learn more about your practice and yeah, your ideas about AI. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Yeah.